Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? You are listening to Pay Me No Mind with your host, Wood. In my second show, glad to be here. Happy Independence Day weekend to everybody. That's right, it's the 4th. We're on the eve of the 4th of July, actually. And it's a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. A lot of stuff. I'm excited to get into this episode. First, I want to send a shout out to my great team that I'm involved with. Can't say enough about these guys.
One Take Podcast Nation. Sports, lifestyle, and more.
Right there it is. One Take Podcast Nation. New family I'm involved with and moving forward with. My man Dav up in Detroit. My partner B Meeks out in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's kind of a sore spot for me right now, but I'm not going to hold it against him. So really quickly, we got a couple of things to get into. I'm planning on another show to kind of recap everything that's going on in the NBA free agency market. But today I'm going to get into on this particular show. This is actually dedicated to the 2015-2016 season for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I have a special guest that I'll be running down this year's schedule with. As a diehard Michigan fan, I bleed blue. I bleed it. But, we got to tell the big stories in the Big Ten, which pretty much centers around what's going to go on in Columbus, Ohio this year. So we'll get into that. Like I said, I also have my free agency take, or the free agency market for the NBA, is going to center around what's going on with the Detroit Pistons and their historical performance in free agency. I'm going to get in a little rant on that, a little short rant. And then I'm going to go into a couple of announcements, just random announcements around the sports world. So with that said, we'll get ready to get into it.
You're tuned in to a One Take Podcast
production.
So like I said, Ohio State Buckeyes, we'll save that for last. That's pretty much the bulk of this show. I'm going to get into the Pistons real quick, my Detroit Pistons. They took Arizona's Stanley Johnson with the 8th pick overall, a one-and-done player from University of Arizona. Did pretty good things. I think he was well received this year. When the announcement was made, Stan Van Gundy chose him over a similar player in Duke's Justice Winslow. I'm not too mad at him. Both of them are untested. We'll see what happens. But my problem is, I'm in here with my co-host today is actually my 1-year-old black lab, Apollo. He's a wild boy, so hopefully there won't be too many more interruptions from him, but he is who he is. So getting back to it, the Pistons. I just don't know what's happened. Drafting has been sketchy because we can't get into the top 3 or 4 picks. We're usually around the dreaded, 6 to 12, and you get into that position and you're taking some risk. You're often looking at a bunch of Euro players, and you're probably into that gray area of the talent. You don't have the sure shots coming in much after picks 3 and 4. So that's where the Pistons were this year. But the way that things unfolded, we came up with some favorable options at 8. But once we get into the current NBA guys, the proven commodities, we can't even get these guys to get on a plane to come. I don't even know if we even contact them to send a plane to go get them. I mean, last year, Melo was making his tour. You never heard the Pistons in the mix. When LeBron went to Miami, I know there was some talks about Worldwide West possibly being able to get a meeting for the Pistons, but that didn't happen. Looking at it this year, the Detroit Free Press actually mentioned that, and this is how sad it is, but our targets from the beginning of the free agency period, which I believe was Thursday at midnight, our targets with everybody on the board: LaMarcus Aldridge, Marc Gasol, Monte Ellis, throw that name out there, several other people. The person that we were looking at, the two people that we were looking at were Danny Green of the Spurs, who re-signed 4 years at $45 million to stay put in San Antonio. He was one. And then DeMarre Carroll, who's moved on to Toronto from Atlanta, 4 years for $60 million with Toronto. I'm not too mad at that one. I think there's some sort of, to bring in an Atlanta Hawks free agent was probably a bit of, we probably still have a little bit of a bad taste in our mouth in the way that the Josh Smith or Jay Smooth situation played out. But, in 13, our big signee, free agent, was Josh Smith for 4 years at $54 million. He was probably paid we probably overpaid a little bit for him, but I can't knock him when you're looking at a 6'9" guy with some decent size on him, and you're looking at trying to defend or be able to rotate a number of defenders off onto LeBron James. So I halfway understand that. It didn't work out. We brought in Stan Gundy the following year. Josh did average about 16, high 15 points per game with us. But I think when you do look at Josh, you see a ceiling for him, to put it kindly. You know what the ceiling is. And I just think Jeff Van Gundy couldn't put up with that. But, that was it. Danny Green and DeMarre Carroll. Both of them have went on to other options, so we can't have any expectations for them. We also have the Detroit Bad Boys .com of SMB Nation. They're actually reporting that there's been a rift or an impasse has hit with Golden State Warriors and their negotiations with finals hero Draymond Green. It's all expected. I mean, he's probably trying to get every bit of money that he can out of that arrangement after playing a key role or a crucial role in them raising the Larry O'Brien trophy. But I don't think, at the end of the day, I believe he goes back there. So, we'll see what happens there. Matter of fact, the Bad Boys of SMB Nation were merely just suggesting that the Pistons really need to pursue signing Draymond, hopefully tugging at the fact that he grew up near Detroit. That's really about the extent of it. A guy that I thought we would take a run at from the very beginning, just based on his level as far of a player, his caliber, I thought we'd take a run at Rudy Gay. And as a backup, that's who the Bad Boys of SMB Nation. I guess that's one of their bloggers for the Pistons. But they suggested taking a look at Rudy Gay, Joe Johnson, or Wilson Chandler. And I thought I got him confused with Tyson Chandler. But Wilson Chandler is the guy who the Knicks traded a couple of years ago. So that's kind of unfortunate. But that's typical. That's the type of players that we take a look at. I won't hold it too bad against Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay had a pretty good season out there. And I believe he was with Sacramento. Joe Johnson wouldn't be a bad look, but, Joe Johnson is just a steady guy. He's kind of hard to see when there's really a fire lit under him. He is a steady guy. I don't see that happening. I don't think him and Stan Van Gundy. Van Gundy likes to push players a lot, and I think you know what you get with Joe Johnson, so I don't see that happening. Wilson Chandler, I don't even want to discuss that. That's not who we should bring in. So really, that's it. As a Detroit Pistons fan, your highlight of the free agency period is possibly taking a look at Rudy Gay and then throwing a line out here to Draymond Green to see if he bites. But we probably can get him on an airplane, though. I mean, we probably do get a meeting with Draymond. I mean, he had one of the higher player efficiency ratings in the NBA. He obviously is a second round pick that's turned himself into an integral player for an NBA team. He has a lot of energy, even being a post player from college to transitioning out to a perimeter player, defending in the post in the NBA. I mean, you can't hate Draymond. I can't say anything bad about him. He would be a great addition to the team, but I just don't think it's very likely. But I have to admit, I mean, since '04 and bringing in Rasheed Wallace, Roscoe, I mean, we really have not had any significant splashes with free agents. We also brought in Hamilton in '02 and Ben Wallace in '01. Those were some signing trades. Wallace came over from Orlando with in the Grant Hill trade. And then there was multiple players, I believe, with Hamilton in '02. That was a trade with Washington, and I believe Stackhouse was another name in there. It was multiple players that were involved in that. But other than that, I mean, 2009, we had Ben Gordon, Charlie Villanueva. Both of them had had shown some positive signs of being difference makers at their previous stops. But once they came to Detroit, very little return on either one of those situations. Chris Wilcox. I mean, we could do some work if we looked at these guys and what they did in college. But I think you'll notice a trend here of when they came to Detroit, it was well past all of their shelf lives had expired by the time they came to Detroit. Chris Wilcox, former Terp, AI. I don't need to say much about what AI did. The real AI. Yes, he was in Detroit for a short stint. Tracy McGrady as recent as 2010, we had Tracy McGrady. Brought him in as a free agent. Not much happened there. Corey Maggette, Juan Dixon in '08. Listen to some of these names. Antonio McDyess. Now, in his defense, he always had knee problems, ever since leaving Denver. He came in and had some good moments for us. I will say, he did what he could do, but long term, that just wasn't an answer. And he probably only came to the Pistons because the Pistons were in the market. That's the only way we could woo a player of his ability, his level, to the city, is because of the questions about his knees, his durability. We brought in Chris Webber in 2007. And that, I don't even think he ever suited up for the team. I don't think he ever really played any meaningful games. And this shocked me. We also had a pair of former Syracuse Orangemen in Billy Owens and Derek Coleman from Detroit. That was just another experiment, just like AI, another experiment. We'll take our shot at it. But all those names, and really not much happened after bringing them in. So, like I said, it's just year after year. We can't get the free agents to come. LaMarcus Aldridge is not by. I mean, LaMarcus met with like 6-7 teams: Phoenix, Houston, Dallas, the Spurs, Los Angeles. I thought he had somebody on the East Coast. I'm not sure. But, LaMarcus Aldridge is not coming to meet with us. Of course, none of the early signees, Damian Lillard, Anthony Davis, none of these guys came to the Motor City. Now, I'll finish this off. I know I'm getting a little long, but that's what's up now when somebody like Greg Monroe, this is what's hard to be a true diehard NBA fan. What did the Pistons do to Greg Monroe that I think it was last year they didn't sign him to a max deal. And I guess that was to his chagrin. He didn't like that. He felt he should have received the max deal contract or the max deal offer last season. So, I guess there was some animosity there. He just went through the motions this season. And from the